The problem is that Western medicine tends to ignore what's in our genes and waits many years until disease takes hold. Diseases like type 2 diabetes have been building for years, if not decades. What if instead we looked at what is in our DNA and started to work with our body and its wiring to stay healthy as long as we possibly can? I'm Jules Walters, a health coach for women over 50, helping you to become the CEO of your health. Yes, you got it, the Chief Executive Officer, the one who's in charge, the one who owns it. I've spent decades in healthcare as an entrepreneur and a CEO, and what I've learned is that many of the answers to a long and healthy life are up to us. Like you, I'm over 50, and I'm a big believer in the power of women to adapt. Let's face it, we've done it before. My message to you is that I absolutely believe that you can become the CEO of your health. You are the expert on you. As a health coach, I've seen many women make the journey from being frankly fed up and frustrated to being empowered and encouraged. They've done it by making small tweaks to their habits that together make all the difference. I call them Nano Health Habits, and I've written a book about it called Nano Health Habits. These are small steps which, built one on top of the other, can transform our health. And that's what this podcast, The Health Refresh, is all about. If you're a busy woman who wants the best for herself and her family and is not prepared to accept that what you have now is as good as it gets, then you're in the right place. Welcome, my friend. Welcome to the Health Refresh team. Today I'm going to talk about a topic that few of us really know about, and that's how DNA affects our metabolism. Did you know that the genes in our DNA affect our metabolism? Well, they certainly do, and it's a critical piece in understanding your health blueprint. And your health blueprint is different from everyone else's. You see, our health is a combination of our environment, what we eat, how often we move, how we sleep, and our levels of stress, plus our genes. The problem is that Western medicine tends to ignore what's in our genes and waits many years until disease takes hold. Diseases like type 2 diabetes have been building for years, if not decades. What if instead we looked at what's in our DNA and started to work with our body and its wiring to stay healthy as long as we possibly can? The technology to see inside our DNA is really just so exciting. And we are the first generation of humans able to look inside ourselves into the hardwiring of our genes and be able to understand what it means to our lifestyle. To understand why now, let me give you a quick history of genetics, and I promise it'll be quick, to explain the context of where we are now. It was only in 1953 that the structure of DNA was revealed to be a double helix. That breakthrough allowed us to understand how traits are passed down from generation to generation, and that was pretty extraordinary in itself. Then in 2003, the Human Genome Project published the first map of our genes. We have about 20,000 genes, fewer than we expected, but enough to make us uniquely human. I completed my degree in molecular genetics when the Human Genome Project was underway, and it really felt like we were entering into a new era of genetic science, which we were. Once we had the complete map of the human genome, the next 20 years saw many breakthroughs in the understanding of disease. So now we're talking about 2020. We identified what genes were responsible for inherited diseases like cystic fibrosis and sickle cell and thousands more. And it's really only since then that attention has started to turn to how genetics affects normal, healthy people. Companies like 23andMe and Ancestry set up to help people understand where they came from. DNA can give great insights into your ancestors, including where they came from. And then in the last decade, Companies like 3x4 Genetics and the DNA company have started to make more accessible what our genes can mean to our everyday health, including our metabolism. I've shared before about how I discovered through my DNA that my body doesn't like gluten. We find gluten in wheat, and I stopped eating gluten as a result of having my DNA tested, and I lost 20% of my body weight over the next 6 months. It really was effortless. I didn't do anything differently apart from make one tweak to my nutrition in eliminating gluten. Each week I got on the scales and I was a little bit lighter. Let me tell you the story of another gene, nicknamed one of our fat controllers. The gene is called FTO, and we inherit one copy of this gene from mum and one copy of this gene from dad. If both versions of our FTO gene are of a particular type, we have a 70% higher chance of being obese than the rest of the population. Now, I have one of those genes, so either came from mum or dad, I don't know which. So I have to watch my weight carefully. And it's thought that FTO works by increasing our appetite or reducing our energy output. Thankfully, FTO responds well to nutrition and exercise, so I make sure that I move regularly. I take daily walks and strength training help a lot. I also play squash. And it's another example of how knowing our genetic makeup influences what we can do day to day. So in my case, I don't eat gluten and I move every day. Otherwise, my body would hold on to every particle of fat that it can. I think of it as like preparing for a famine that never arrives. We'll be looking at fat storage, appetite, and different muscle types in a new coaching program I'll be launching in the next month. We'll be covering how our DNA has wired our bodies to react in a certain way to food and exercise. It's going to be highly personalized, and I believe will help you to become active and not passive when it comes to your health. I believe being able to access this knowledge and data will encourage and empower you to become the CEO of your health. My program will help to explain what the data means and what lifestyle changes you might consider. It will help you to step into being the strong, powerful, and resourceful woman that you are. Meanwhile, I've created a guide to help you take 4 simple steps to tackle midlife weight, to start taking action today. And you can find it at juleswalters.com/tackle. That's juleswalters.com/tackle. It's a free resource, and I hope you find it useful. So that's it for this week. Before we go, I need to make clear, if I haven't already, that I am not a doctor. I'm a health coach, and my lane is lifestyle and how it affects our health. If you have a medical condition or suspect you might be developing one, then a doctor is the right person to see. So that's the legal bit done. Next week, we'll be diving into more examples of how our environment and our DNA interact to create our health. So see you here, same time, same place.